Hello there, and welcome to Thank the Maker, a podcast about heroes, princesses, scoundrels, hokey religions, ancient weapons, and all things Star Wars. I'm Adam Russell.
And I'm your other host, Mike Forster, still reeling from what we just saw. We have arrived. This was the greatest episode, possibly, of all. Nope. Yes? Okay.
I don't know.
But the fact that I can't immediately dismiss it tells me that was one hell of a Star Wars TV show we just watched.
Hell of a Star Wars episode of television. We're talking about Ahsoka, of course. The amount of emotions that I've felt about space ladies with weird heads the past 2 weeks is just incalculable.
Yeah, that does. That is something. And we got to see Ahsoka without her headband on.
Dude, so interesting. The anatomy of we're learning about the anatomy of alien species
of a Chandrila.
Yeah. We can talk a little deeper about that tomorrow when we do a deep dive. We're going to do instant reactions right now. I should say, for anyone who wasn't watching on Instagram Live just now, I just came from a venue called Del Mar Hall in St. Louis, where our good friend and co-host, Nick Gambarian, a.k.a. at Nick Bayside, was preparing for his headlining show, by watching Ahsoka. We sat in the back lounge and watched it, both cried, and he got up and just sighed, guess I have to go play a show now after that. Like, how am I supposed to think about my base? You know, like the Shooter McGavin moment. Like, you know, but
I'm supposed to tee off, Doug.
Yeah, instead of two bikers banging in the woods, it's, you know, you got your head full of this emotional Ahsoka series. I watched one song and had to come home to do this because this is more
peak.
important. I'm sorry.
This
I'm
is
sorry,
peak.
friends. That was great. Directed by Dave Filoni, Shadow Warrior Part 5. Dude, I cannot stress enough, if you're watching this right now or you're listening, if you haven't watched any Star Wars animation, or you've watched a little bit and maybe you haven't made it through, like, now is the time. If this isn't selling you on it, I don't know what will. There's so much stuff that has happened this season, and especially the past 2 episodes, that hits on such a higher level that we can't even possibly describe for animation fans versus non-animation fans. You watched with some fans or with some friends who hadn't watched animation. What was their take? You were kind of giving me the rundown a second ago.
Yeah, so I think this episode really is going to be that I mean, it truly is. It's Dave's love letter to people who have stuck around his projects, which was up until The Mandalorian was his realm. His development through George Lucas's mentor was in animation. I think for us to be able to go through and realize the weight of how much the Clone Wars filled in all of the discrepancies and the frustrations that I think some people had with the prequels, it really did grow an entire fan base and a fandom of Star Wars fans that like do authentically hold that to be their that to be their Star Wars. Like there is a whole crop of younger fans that are like, I grew up on the prequels, and this episode particularly is going to. I've said this when Bo-Katan showed up in The Mandalorian, and like there's the gasp of like, you know, there's been so many crumb trails left out for super fans who have stuck around this franchise and consumed it the way that the franchise wanted you to consume it, right? They don't put stuff out there for you not to watch it. They put expensive products out there and they want you to partake in it and understand the stories. But I think in this one particularly, everyone always appreciates a good flashback. But for people who didn't understand Ahsoka's dynamic with her master, for people who are just outright confused that up until it's been mentioned briefly enough that like most people have been like, okay, so Anakin Skywalker had a Padawan. It's Ahsoka. This was like going from a drip to an absolute fire hose of what you know what I mean? Of truly like what their relationship was like. And so if you haven't watched it, to see Anakin in his Clone Wars, I mean, God, it's like they pulled it straight out of animation. The Vader inspired shoulder armor, the maroon and dark blue with the shoulder belt. I mean, like everything.
Even the haircut was spot on, dude.
Oh, with the little side swoop, and I'm just like, dang, and then to have him come in the second realization, right? So I'm fully convinced that they're going to that they were going to Mustafar, and either she was going to see a different
thing in that moment.
Yeah, 100%, right? Like, and when that red came up, I was like, oh no, like she's going to be able to see what would have happened if she wouldn't have let him go, right? And when they didn't do it, I remember almost thinking, oh, should they have gone to Mustafar? But the fact that Anakin didn't realize where he was, and she goes, it's because you left, right? And then he's like, is that what this is all about? And then instantly he gets Vader-fied. I'm still, and that was, Adam, that was like 10 minutes of this episode, and we're like fixated on, right? We see Rex in phase 1 and phase 2. We're on Ryloth. We're on Mandalore, like Ahsoka with animated speed, using both lightsabers to cut through the Mandalorians. I'm like, what is going on here? To see Anakin turn from Anakin to Darth Vader,
the
flashback, and then the editing pop of like him coming out of the world between worlds when he rejects her and throws her back in. I'm just like, what on earth is happening? And that's not even like the most wholesome part of the show. The most wholesome part of the show is Ahsoka like figuring out how she can get to Ezra and how she can get to Sabine. I can't really put into perspective what we just saw. I really
of things, like the hits just kept coming. Like, just when you think, okay, this has to be it, right? Like, they can't. Like, I didn't want to check my watch because it was like Christmas when you don't want to look behind the tree and really count the number of presents. You just want to you just hope another one keeps coming, and they kept coming. And then, like, to me, the when she got out of her bunk, which, by the way, I want to like buy an RV and make bunks.
Well, I got a heavy Starcruiser vibe from that.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
like
100%.
I was like, that's on the Halcyon? Like, I've slept in that.
Yeah. So Ahsoka gets out of the bunk, and she's got the white cloak kind of half draped over, and I'm like, okay, is this just like is this a blanket? Is this half a cloak? Like, where's this going? Yep. And then in the end, she was fully in the new suit. Ahsoka the white, the new outfit. That, like, the Mandalorians in that were like two. For some reason, the two biggest parts to me.
Sure.
I don't know what it was about seeing those. Like, we've seen so many Mandalorians now. There's a show literally called The Mandalorian. But something about seeing the Siege of Mandalore in live action, in the like right on the front line in the middle of the battle, just was like. I think that was like one of the biggest tear moments for me. It was just like nostalgia explosion. Nostalgia for a year and a half ago. But you know what I'm saying? It's just like,
well, dude, she's having this moment of like, and she's aware of what's happening. Like, she's going through this replaying the world between worlds of like, she's like rewatching it. And it's interesting to see her point of like where she goes back and is almost like aware. It's almost like she's asleep, but being awake at, you know what I mean? Almost like a
lucid dreaming.
A dream you can control. And to have her go in, and especially on Mandalore, the 332nd are running by. I'm like, and for her to like realize all the work that we didn't stop my fate.
Yep.
Which was to lose my master, have him go on to become probably one of the most destructive forces in the galaxy. Simultaneously, her not being able to know that, dude, her being able to also realize that she saw him as good. When he pulls out his lightsaber, it's the blue saber. She talks him back out of Vader.
Yeah.
In non-suit. Did you pick up on she got the Sith eyes?
I was wondering. The angle I was at the TV, it wasn't the
I think that was
I
intentional.
couldn't quite tell.
I think that was intentional. The idea of like she can soak up, like she can take his pain, his power, and reject it. Right? Like that was a part of me that was like, I was like, oh dude, that was rad. Because then when he like looks up and he doesn't have the eyes anymore, I don't know, like there, and then outside of that, we have like our first like we're still clearly geeking out. Like everyone in YouTube, our YouTube is like on fire right now. I'm like watching the comments and people are just like, yeah, come on, what kid this? It's like we got a Kanan Jarrus reference, right?
Not just
Kanan
a reference, like
a straight up exposition of like, that's why this kid is who he is, right? And so like we get Jason's connection to the Force, him being able to sense the world between worlds. I'm like, dude, how rad is that? Then we also have Prince Leia Organa call out. Like,
oh my god,
I'm like, dude, what is
over and over? Nick and I would just look at each other, just dude, over and over, and I was waiting for. I was like emotionally trying to prepare myself for just a shot of her from behind, of Leia from behind her head to see the buns, like, or something like that. Because, man, the rate that the hits kept coming, I was like prepared for anything.
Yeah. And I think this idea of Ahsoka's journey thus far, right, has been in this like sense of guilt, of failure, of what if I would have changed things. And the part of me that I look at and I think Yoda went to Dagobah originally, right, in the animated. I think that was in the Goofy season, right? I think there was an episode or season 6, right, where he goes to Dagobah and basically challenges Dark Yoda, right? The same thing with Luke going through the tree and seeing himself as as going into the dark. Was this purpose her master being able to say like, I'm releasing you of this guilt of what you've carried, and that you shouldn't see, because we have that very important dialogue between Anakin and Ahsoka right there on the battlefield on Ryloth, right?
About losing people and sacrifice.
Losing people, but then him also saying, if I don't teach you how to fight, you die, right?
Yes.
So all she has known is fighting, but there's nothing about compassion. There's nothing about balance. There's nothing about, forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
There's so much of that.
Redemption, guilt. Yeah.
100%, I think I'm just saying, like on a rewatch, this episode is going to hit that much harder now that like we've gotten over the eye candy, because it certainly was filled with that. But like, dude, there is some Filoni dialogue going on here that I bet I'm gonna catch something for tomorrow's episode and be like,
yeah, some deep layers of interpretation and some philosophy. Like I think what you said about this whole thing being an experience, a process for her to process and move past where she's been stuck, the guilt, all the baggage. Just like the reel that I made, where I cut together all the stuff that she says in part 1 about the right reasons and the wrong consequences. Right? I think you're absolutely spot on. That's what this was, because to me, it was like an absolute, not just the wardrobe, but an absolute like mood shift, character, like vibe, like a switch was flipped between the time, all 4 episodes leading up to this, and then the moment she came out, she woke up. She's a changed person.
Yeah.
Which smiling, like feeling adventurous, feeling like bold and ready to just like face the future, not having the answers and being okay with that. You know what she says to Hera, like, or does she says it to Hera or Hu Yang, one of the two, about, you know, are we gonna bring them back? And she's like, I don't know, like,
To Hu Yang.
are they gonna be able to bring us back, right?
Right, as the mouth closes on the
Yeah.
biggest Purgle in the batch.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about it is, like, we have to also look at this entire show as a character study for Ahsoka Tano, right? And when we look at this episode particularly, because now she's lost Sabine, you go back to where she is as a character. She feels like she failed her master. She feels like she's failed her Padawan. For her in this between is like she's got this guilt pulling her from left to right. And what I loved about this episode particularly is that when you think back to that little moment there on Ryloth, she's like, what do you, we've lost so much, right? And that's the whole thing, the sacrifices. And Anakin's thing being like, I'm teaching you to fight. Why did he get seduced by the dark side? When you think about it, right? It was the idea that he could have so much power that he could end anyone that stood in his way, that evil needed to be eliminated, from a certain point of view.
Right.
So his way that he was teaching Ahsoka, he fell almost, Palpatine makes him fall into his own trap that he set for himself because he didn't understand that. He was like, you know what I mean? And when you think about that, there is such a crazy amount of development for these characters, in the sense that, like, Anakin's balance is actually stopping that when Vader throws Palpatine over, Palpatine's winning. The Force lightning is winning. He's frying Luke Skywalker on the Death Star 2. And that is the ultimate power. That is useless against a lightsaber. You know, or a lightsaber is useless against it. And he stops it, right? So it's like, finally he understands that, like, power isn't everything in that way. It's just, it's
great.
What did we just watch? What did we
for
just
real.
watch?
Hey, real quick, Mando Pool guy in our Discord channel right here, server. He says, Ahsoka says in Rebels, when she's in the world between worlds, there are ways those who have passed on may still guide and influence the living. It's not impossible. So, great quote to help make sense of what this experience in the world between worlds is, because, you know, Anakin's not a Force ghost, but this is clearly not a literal experience. Like, she's on the battlefield, but she as a child, but she's experiencing it as current Ahsoka.
Right.
So, although I was fully on board, I was a little confused about the mechanics of the whole thing.
Sure.
I'm sure we'll hear from Filoni kind of breaking it down, how it works in the way that Filoni explains things, and we're all satisfied, right? He's not
Sure,
going
yeah,
to
right.
quantum physics of it, but he's going to explain it in a way that is satisfying. And I think that quote is probably one that he's going to reference.
Right.
Because it really is, like, you would assume this is actually Anakin. It's his Force ghost materialized in the world between worlds and in forms that Ahsoka needs to see. You know, kind of, just like Palpatine, like, as a living Sith Lord, came into the world between worlds in a different form for Ezra.
Right.
So that can happen. And I'm trying to think of a movie where there's something else about, you know, the form in which someone manifests. I don't remember. It's some kind of sci-fi movie where it's aliens, shapeshifters, something like that. Anyway, point being, I think we're really, like, we're honing, we're drilling down to what was actually happening here, and I can't wait to hear Filoni's actual breakdown of it. Let's talk about a couple things. We're 20 minutes in.
Was shocked.
Yeah. Little things to point out. You said Captain Rex in Phase 1 and Phase 2
Yep.
I thought it was awesome that he was credited as Captain/Commander Rex
Sure.
because of the specific time.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yep.
The moment on Ryloth.
Yep.
Is this the same like from the arc that had what was the episode Storm over Ryloth, where Ahsoka lost all those ships, all those pilots got killed, and there's a very similar conversation that Anakin has with her about just that's the reality of command, that you're going to lose soldiers. Do you remember this?
That's what I took it as, because I remember that was a pivotal moment for her to fail. And also that was when she has that, like, you really, that was when you started to like kind of get the sense of that the clones were, the clones up until that point had kind of been like really like let's go fight, blah blah blah, right? And then that arc specifically was to show that the clones understood that like they were created as war machines, but the effect of them forming a brotherhood, forming identity, forming all of these things that made them individuals, and then also understanding that like they had deep emotion for each other, despite being genetic copies of each other. They were individuals in their own right. And so that's what I'm glad that you said that, because that was like the same thing that I thought of in the way that they showed it, especially like, and I thought that it was really smart how they did it, where everyone's face was covered and you couldn't see that it obviously wasn't, it wasn't Temuera Morrison in 2003, which would have been interesting, but certainly enough. I was looking to see like what they would have done there, but and obviously for Temuera Morrison to get the voice of Rex, I thought that was like, it's awesome.
To hear his voice call her commander was just like, like pure joy.
Right. So good.
Oh
and then obviously that's Hera's family. That's like,
right.
That's Hera's dad, probably is on the front lines of that fight.
Right. I was wondering. Yeah.
So, I mean,
Shams
I'm like,
Syndulla,
Shams Syndulla being, and Mace Windu, and like the liberation of Ryloth, and it's just like, again, but like, dude, if you didn't watch animated stuff, like you're like, oh, that looked crazy. Like, I'm like, it's fine. But amazing.
I can't wait to go frame by frame and look at all of the kits from all of the updated Clone Wars era kits.
Yep.
And I can't wait to see the flood of new costumes out at all the cons.
Oh, it's gonna the phase one is back. If you're a phase one maker right now, go ahead and put the wingding back on your head, man. It's like people are hyped on it, and it was all live action. That's what's really great about it. So
yeah,
you're gonna start, and what I thought was really cool about it was just that we got, it's live action. The 501st look. I'm sorry, the 332nd looked amazing. Rex in his, we've seen a lot of really great, like one of our patrons, Jagai Hunter Smoke, is probably one of the best Rexes phase 2 I've ever seen. And so it's so surreal watching that on screen, and I'm sitting there going, that's actually a shout out to Hunter for having, that could have been him in there. Like that's how good they look together. So the Clone Wars people, we eating good tonight.
Yeah, dude. And also, Mando Pool Guy again referenced headbandless Ahsoka. It's going to be really interesting to see how the Togruta cosplayers solve that problem, because that's not an easy makeup to go out in the world in.
That's a beautiful blend. I mean, incredible how they did that.
I mean, that's hours and hours of makeup. It's one thing to do the swim cap, paint the face, put the thing on.
Right.
That's a lot of makeup. So it'll be interesting to see if anybody does it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if there's some solution.
And to see this second phase of Ahsoka's costume, I mean, we saw 4 phases of her costume tonight. Really quite incredible. The second costume, That is the the white armor. She's got these white gauntlets. She's ditched the traditional gauntlets at this point. And I think for a lot of people who are kind of wondering where that, I think we've talked about it on the show actually, like where did Ahsoka the White go with the scepter at the end of in the epilogue. I will, I'm sure more information will come out probably from Shauna Terpsick over where this costume fits in with that. But certainly I think that this is that classic light versus dark one, I'm sure there's
the rebirth.
100%, right? Like, so she's going to go against Balin, who's in all black. She's in all white. You're like, here we go. Like, this is a classic trope that I absolutely love for Star Wars. And that's kind of the, this is the way.
And absolutely. And I don't remember who called it last week, but I think we're gonna get a recycling, whatever you want to call it, of the shot of Sabine and Ahsoka leaving in the ship that we got recreated from Rebels in live action, episode 1 of this.
Right.
I think we're gonna get them leaving again to go off and do whatever they do.
Right.
From the same spot on Lothal, but this time in white with the staff.
Yeah, love it. I can see it. I mean, I think looking and possibly looking forward. I know that we don't want to take too much time up tonight because we're going to go in the deep dive tomorrow. But I think we're finally going to get that. This is going to be the Thrawn episode next, right? I think they're going to arrive. We're going to introduce Thrawn. What will be really interesting to see is how much backstory we get for Thrawn for people that didn't know him. And again, this is that interesting thing where like this show is done by a guy who's most of his storytelling has been through animated, and he's done a pretty good job of getting people up to speed without needing to necessarily be like, oh, flashback time, let's go all the way back.
Right.
As much as I want to, like, I want it.
Oh yeah,
I want to get
it.
Yeah, same. But like, I respect the fact that it's like, we're going to tell you about, Kanan Jarrus. And if you're curious enough to know what probably one of the greatest Jedi stories in all of Star Wars, actually, if you're curious about what Jason's dad did, because he's kind of the GOAT, we wouldn't have this show without Kanan Jarrus. Go ahead and look it up, watch the recap on YouTube, maybe go back and be inspired to watch. I think that's what it is. Pulling Ahsoka out of the water was awesome.
Yes.
I'm loving the shots of the ghost. Like, you got to get low, Chopper says get low, and then the ghost comes in and flies over the waves. I'm like, let's go.
Speaking of, I put this in the chat, in our Thank the Maker chat. A few days ago, I got confirmation from an undisclosed source that they did build real, actual, practical models, miniatures, bigatures of the Ghost and the T6.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So
I want to see
some shots that are full blown, just traditional shots, and then a lot, CG recreations. But they built those, they shot them. So just like in the Mandalorian, they're doing it. And
I'm kind of regretting not buying that Hasbro thing that just
the HasLab.
Yeah, I'm kind of regretting that now. But I'm running out of space.
It's beautiful, dude. It's like $600 though, right?
Yeah, but you get all 5 characters, or all 6 characters, I think, and they're all carded in a specific like background. I mean, it's very dope. It's very dope. But it's huge. It's like literally like this big.
God, that's sick. That's like shooting scale, right?
Pretty damn close. I
mean, you think about like the smaller Falcon that they used for some of the, they had the big like 4-foot one, and then they had the smaller 2.5 or whatever.
Right, right.
This arm, if you're not watching, imagine you're hugging a big tree.
All right, I'm imagining your arms around me, Adam.
Yes. So I'm giving Mike a hug. He's been eating a lot though. Because I'm hugging widely.
Yes.
Yeah. If it's that big, that's production
pretty close
size.
to yeah. I'm with it. Yeah, I don't know. I think this episode, people are watching along with us to get our instant take on it. And I'm going to go ahead and say that this is a top, I'm going to say at least a top 3, maybe a top 2. I can't get over how well done this episode was, and that it felt like, I'm very jealous of everyone who got to go see it on the big screen tonight. If you lived in a city that had this, and I actually got 2 tickets. I just got 2 tickets and I gave them to a friend of the pod, Brooke McDonald. And I was like, please go. Like I saw it go on. I saw them, go on sale. They were actually free, but it was like, oh, now available. And I was like, oh, I'm just gonna get tickets. And
it was like a lottery or a wait list or something, right? Some kind of
no. It was just literally you got them until they weren't available.
Well.
And so I just got 2, and I like messaged her, and I'm like, here, you're in Chicago, please take these because I bet this is gonna be amazing. But we called it last week. We said, there's a reason Star Wars is like, there's something going on in this episode that you're going to need to see it on the big screen. And I'm looking at that going, I would have liked to see that on the big screen, because
so
the
jealous.
first flashback to Ryloth and all of a sudden seeing, and I'm just like, whew.
It was
Update
intense,
that
man.
bingo card.
Yes. So I posted last week's results earlier today. I'm going to go ahead and go through and tally it up later. I don't know. We'll post them. I don't think anyone's going to hit bingo. I think we're probably done with the World Between Worlds, so those couple key ones for me are not happening. But I don't know. We got some hits on here, man. We got some hits.
We did get some hits.
Let's get an update, and then we'll be done with this. On my card, Captain Rex appears. There we go. What else? God, there's so much stuff in here that would be awesome. No Morai. Interesting, right?
I did think that was interesting.
No, you know what? I bet we'll see Morai at the end.
That's probably true.
It has to happen.
That's probably true. So
Vader appears in Vader's suit.
Yep.
Hit for Mike.
Captain Rex appears. Hit for me.
Yep.
Vader appears in suit. Hit for me. Republic gunship scene, buddy. You know we love that. We love that lat gunship. So I got one there.
You're slaying, dude. You're way ahead.
Mandalorians from other houses. We know the Mandalorians were made up of a ragtag group of Wrens and Vizslas and everybody coming along for the ride, getting slaughtered, backstabbed, all of that. So I would give myself a ding on that. And
so 2 for me, 3 for you, right?
No, 4 for me.
4?
4 for me, because I got Captain Rex, Vader, I got Republic gunship, and I got Mandalorians. So I got 4.
Dude. Hey, last thing I'll say, and let's get out of here.
Right. Let's go rewatch it.
The girl who played young Ahsoka,
yes.
Great. She was so great.
That was Gamora, actually, from Young Gamora from Guardians of the Galaxy. From Infinity War.
Nice.
Yeah,
that is great.
She's doing okay.
Family.
She's doing okay.
Stay away from the drugs.
Yeah.
Young actors.
Please.
Be good.
And support our podcast if you want.
Yeah. But I would have loved to have heard Ashley's voice replacing hers.
Sure.
Somebody out there is going to do it with AI. It's going to happen. It'll happen this month. That's my prediction.
Yeah. I could see it. Yeah, and I don't know if that's like a contractual thing too. There's all kinds of stuff going on. I know that Dave has said multiple times the people in animated who were on board for this, he's always tried to take care of them. I think even for reasons of being like, let's bring Clancy Brown back, like we could have somebody else play Ryder Azadi, right? But like he knew, like, let's bring Clancy back. So yeah. I think everyone's gonna have their moment in the sun of all the people who have come along with him. This, all in all, this was a fantastic, one of the best live action Star Wars episodes we have ever seen, period.
Hold the phone. That's the girl from Barbie? That's what they're saying in the chat here?
Was she the main kid in Barbie?
The daughter of America? right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Huh.
Yeah, she's great. Wow.
She
Good
is
for her.
doing well. Again, support the podcast. We'd love to see you be a patron.
Yeah. All right. Let's get out of here. I feel like we've done too much, but there's still so much more to do. We're gonna go deep on all of these. I mean, just all the details, and I'm gonna need you as the host of Armor Party podcast on
I got to
tomorrow
rewatch
night.
it 6 times. Okay.
Two in a row late nights. Sorry, but you're the guy. You got to be there.
Sorry, not sorry. You're not sorry. Don't even act like you're sorry.
I'm not even remotely sorry.
Oh my God.
All right. Apologize to your family for me, though.
They're already asleep. Don't worry about that, Adam.
All right.
We're on the East Coast time.
All right, patrons, thanks for hanging out with us. Shout out to a couple folks who got to actually go see it in theater. I know Henry and a couple others got to go see it. Good for you guys. Patreon.com/thankthemaker.
Ruth McDonald. Yep.
Thank the maker. Jesus. Patreon.com/thankthemakerpod. Did it. Nailed it. That is where you can go if you want to be a patron and get all kinds of good stuff that you'll hear about in the outro. And hit the subscribe button. Like and subscribe. Do all the stuff. Help us build this thing on YouTube because we're moving on up. Mike, I will see you tomorrow once again on this podcast. Everyone else, come back. And until then, do you want to say it?
May the Force be with you.